Hey, who's ready for Friday? We are over here at Up North News Radio. It's Friday, August 25th, 2023. I'm Pat Kreitlow up here on Lake Wissota. Nice to have you along. Not on the radio because we haven't started the show yet. That'll get going at 6:06. But for those of you watching live on social media or playing this back later, hope you're having a great day and thanks for being here with us. A busy day ahead, obviously. What with, inmate number P01138509 getting his mugshot taken. So we'll talk about Trump's fourth arrest now, this one in Atlanta. We'll do some Friday morning quarterbacking on the Republican debate with Keya Vakil. We will talk about the latest effort by Republicans in both Madison and Washington, D.C. to continue interfering in the elections or the investigation of election interference, and have details with Henry Redman from the Wisconsin Examiner. And we'll talk to our usual Friday friends, Dan Schumacher and Mark Jacob as well. So, again, that's coming up at 6:06, right after the news and commercials all across the Civic Media Radio Network. So thanks for being here. We'll see you soon. I need to put some kind of a Friday song into this mix over here. Oh, never even
I'm
thought
not
about
100.
that.
I'm not
No.
100% sure that it works like that.
Well, why should we jeopardize it? I noticed on like my Facebook page stream, I've been getting dinged like every day, and I used to never get dinged on there. So, and I don't think I really have any recourse for my own Facebook page, but I don't know if it's happening on the other radio station pages or not.
Yes. One of our social media people was talking to me about that and how it is possible to go back and like contest it, and
Yeah,
then it usually works.
right. Yeah,
Um,
you've done that a few times.
right. Except otherwise, some countries, like I think we mentioned Russia, it might just stay blocked in Russia, but whatever.
That's okay. We'll make do.
Um, Beatles songs they really like to fight hard on.
That's funny. Yeah, there's a couple of things. Beatles are one, and who else? I just had the darndest time finding anything. It's like whoever their rep is works extra hard to keep their stuff off of YouTube. Might not. Was it the Springsteen one? I don't know. Maybe not.
See clearly, save clearly. At Ula Eyewear, Madison's premier eyewear shopping destination. Exclusions apply.
There's also some stuff on there that only shows up if you have YouTube Premium,
Mm-hmm.
which thankfully we do here. By the way, when do you want that particular song you texted me about?
Oh, good question. I was actually. That's our 6:15.
Okay,
I see. I didn't put it in there.
I figured that's what it would be.
Yeah. Clearly got distracted.
Think you'd like working with us at Civic Media? We're having fun and moving fast to preserve hometown radio across Wisconsin. If you have the right skills to join our team, let's talk. Civic Media is a proud equal opportunity employer committed to diversity and inclusion along with the growth and development of all current and
Do you want it at the beginning or at the chorus?
If you're interested
At the beginning.
organization who wants to know
Okay.
more,
Nobody needs to hear me sing.
Me either.
On the Careers tab.
I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear. Call me Papa Bear, because I'm grrr.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Wissota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It's Friday, August 25th, and it's another beautiful day to have you here up north from wherever you're listening across the Civic Media Radio Network or by app, podcast, or social media. Glad to have you here in the state of Wisconsin, where we're going to unpack the news and the spin's going to get unspun. Here's what's on tap this morning. Inmate number P011385099. With apologies to Tommy Two-Tone, Jenny's phone number of 8675309 has been replaced with Donald Trump's new inmate number from the Fulton County Jail, where he was booked last evening. It made for a lot of attention, a lot of headlines. There's going to be a lot of artwork done with that mugshot, but let's not lose sight here of the very real and very sad issue at the heart of all this. An American president tried to lie, cheat, and steal his way into staying in power after the voters said no. We'll also do some Friday morning quarterbacking of the GOP debate among the non-Trump candidates, and we'll ask Keya Vakil if one is ready to step up if Trump's trials take him out of the race. And sadly, we're not done talking about Republican interference in elections or investigations into election interference, both in Madison and Washington, D.C. At the state level, state senators are pushing ahead with an illegal effort to fire the administrator of the Wisconsin Elections Commission. We will talk to Henry Redman of the Wisconsin Examiner about that. And in D.C., House Republicans have announced an investigation into the Atlanta district attorney investigating Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election, same as they've done by targeting prosecutors, judges, law enforcement, and the FBI in New York and elsewhere for trying to hold Trump accountable for his illegal actions. We'll talk to our usually Friday friends. Mark Jacob will talk about national media coverage of the debate and the Trump arrest. We'll talk to Dan Schumacher about sports. We'll get that weatherology forecast, most likely from meteorologist Jennifer Vucicki. And Brewers tickets. We are giving away 2 tickets today to Sunday afternoon's game at American Family Field. That'll be the Brewers versus the Padres Sunday afternoon. We're going to give you a Brewers trivia question at about 6:50. And just a heads up, we have a packed music break and history lesson segment at 6:50. A lot of tunes, a lot of birthdays, and Brewers tickets. So you're going to have to strap in and hold on when we get to that point. Along the way, of course, the phone lines are open for your input at 844-967-2789. You can also email us, radio@upnorthnewswi.com. Those of you watching the live feed of this on social media, if you put a comment on one of the Facebook pages where we're broadcasting, we'll see it and might put your comment up on the screen here. Or you can text us not only at the phone number, but through the Civic Media app, and we'll see that as well. We'll tell you more about what Up North News is covering in this morning's newsletter and beyond in just a moment. But first, let's head down to Madison to the Civic Media Control Center where Aaron Zommers is standing by, where Aaron and I are both ready to be done with this week. Fair to say?
Yep, and I was just giving my best impression of the Donald Trump mugshot there. It's not you can't tell because I don't look like him at all, but which I am thankful for.
It obviously has gone everywhere. So far, my favorite has been, what is the album name by Queen, and just has the four heads, kind of in a diamond shape against a dark background, and then of course they've added Trump's in there as well. And I've seen a couple of other album covers about it. Of course, it's been on T-shirts. It's going to be every place. It's even on Donald Trump's Twitter account. He reactivated his Twitter account just for that, to put his mugshot on there and raise money, of course.
Of course he did. My favorite thing I've seen so far is a little compilation talking about the Kubrick stare is one of Stanley Kubrick's most recognizable directorial techniques, where you have a character staring directly at the camera with their head tilted forward to show that they're at the peak of their derangement.
Oh, that's at their derangement. Oh, very good. All right. Well, I'm glad we have cracked the code on that one. So we'll have more to say about that coming up in just a bit. Let's check some 6 a.m. temperatures around the state of Wisconsin right now. Here on Lake Wissota, it is 68 and heading to 84. Just a cooler, much more seasonal day today. Madison is at 70, on its way to 82. Folks listening in Waukesha, you're at 64 degrees right now, heading to 78. La Crosse is going to be about 15 degrees cooler today at 72 now, on their way to 86. And Wausau, about the same as yesterday, 68, on the way to 82. And again, full details of the forecast coming up. I've mentioned previously that Up North News has finally achieved a level of capitalism that we've often inspired to. And that, of course, would be merchandise. So we have T-shirts and we have tote bags available. The T-shirts say things like, am I up north right now? And Wisconsin needs local news, a definition of bubbler, beer, cheese, and voting rights. The tote bag, I'm going to hold up over here, not in front of my microphone. Tote bag says fascists hate facts. And that's actually from our parent company, Courier Newsroom, right there. So the tote bag is available as well. So head over to our homepage, UpNorthNewsWI.com, and click store in the top banner. I know I talked Dr. Lyerly into purchasing something because I need somebody other than me to be the celebrity spokesmodel modeling the shirts. Aaron, you wear different shirts every day. You could probably be one of our T-shirt models.
Yeah, I haven't bought any yet, but I'm going to.
Well, here's the thing. I didn't get to use my employee discount because they told me about it like an hour after I bought the things. So maybe I'll just share that with you, and we'll get you the discount and get you a shirt or two here. Very quick Brewers update, weather forecast, and then we'll unpack the news coming up here on Up North News Radio for this Friday morning. Wherever you're listening across the state of Wisconsin, when you're here, you're up north. We'll be back.
Furniture styles at the lowest prices, plus a great selection in stock, ready to take home today. So go ahead, relax in a recliner, get cozy in a love seat, or simply unwind with a comfy sofa. Need more seats? We've got sectionals too. Get 11% off your new furniture set now at Menards. Good through August 27th, savings or mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards. With one call, the Civic Media network of stations can deliver your business's message to the entire state of Wisconsin or your hometown. Marketing plans that work for your business. One call can do it all. Civic Media, 608-819-8255.
Weather in a Moment is brought to you by Chad's Design Build, building a better world one remodeled home at a time. Reach out today by going to chadsdesignbuild.com to learn more. Again, that's chadsdesignbuild.com.
Sometimes I just cannot believe all the storms we've gone through here. I can only hope that we'll be able to leave this house to you one day, baby. You're our legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe. And is the best way to protect that legacy.
Protect your legacy. Visit ready.gov/plan for the tools and tips you need to start your emergency preparedness plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you.
this one up to the chorus because we haven't yet asked the folks over at Tommy Two Tone to re-record it as P011385099, which is Donald Trump's new inmate number from his booking last night. We'll talk about that in just a sec. First, a very quick update on the Milwaukee Brewers because they were off yesterday, starting a 3-game series against the San Diego Padres this weekend as they head into the final roughly 35 games or so of the 2023 season. You can catch the games this weekend on Oshkosh Air Support 98.3 and 1100 AM, or News from the Center and Richland Center 107.7 FM and 1450 AM. And we're going to be giving away tickets just about a half hour from now, 2 tickets to Sunday afternoon's game against the Padres. We would love to give those away. It's going to be a little Brewers trivia question for you, so tune in and get that. Again, our phone number here is 844-967-2789, 844-967-2789. If you'd like to comment on anything like the Trump arraignment or any of the other things that are in the news today, you can email us, radio@upnorthnewswi.com. Aaron, normally this is a short break before we get into unpacking the news. Usually I just keep my butt here, but I had finished all my coffee from my one and only Up North News mug that I'm holding up for the social media audience here. And I don't normally get up during that break because it's a quick one, but I had to get a splash more coffee. I've now opened up the house up here on the lake because the stifling humidity has passed and realized that in the process I've probably let in several mosquitoes.
Ooh.
And as I've got the coffee mug on the stovetop, got a ceramic stovetop, and I'm filling it, and I see a mosquito flying under the range hood. And so I tap my hand upward, kind of squish the mosquito against the top of the range hood, and I see, much like Prigozhin's plane, the mosquito just plunges down and crashes into my coffee cup along with lots of other dust, because apparently we don't clean that thing nearly as often as we need to. So I've got a little extra protein in my coffee because I had to get back here, it being a short commercial break. So if you hear me later catching encephalitis or dengue fever or chikungunya or something, you'll know it's from this little sip right here. Yeah. It's okay. I got the
least
boosters.
You probably won't get malaria because we're not in Florida.
Yeah, see, I got that going for me, which is nice. Yesterday, when the show is over on Thursdays, we have shows all across the Civic Media Radio Network, and for Bull Falls Radio up in Wausau, that would be Chad Holmes. So Chad's got the show from 8 to 10, followed by Kristen Bryan, As Goes Wisconsin. But Chad on Thursdays has me on during the first half hour of his show. A little crossover, like we have him on Tuesday, or, Todd Alba. We visit each other's shows on Wednesday. Well, anyway, Chad brought up a point about the debates yesterday that I thought was maybe worth sharing here as well. And I'm a little surprised it didn't occur to me because I was trashing the notion of there being an audience there, a live audience that was jeering and, people going for the applause lines and all of that. And I wanted the format fixed. Chad went all the way there. He said to his audience, have the debates worn out their usefulness? Would we be better off if we didn't have these spectacles? And I understand why you would put that question out there and say, you know what, it's not even worth it. We're not even getting anything out of it. I don't know that I would go that far, but I'd like to know what you think, because after all, even though I think an estimated 12 million people watched the debate Wednesday night, that's still, a sliver of the full U.S. population. And really, how many of those 12 million people changed their votes or their assessment of somebody based on what they saw for those 2 hours on Wednesday night? Now, that number might be enough that it makes these debates worthwhile, but you might disagree. And I just wonder what you think about that. Do we keep the debates or do we not? I'm going to stand with my answer that I would like to continue to have a way for multiple candidates to be together and to engage with each other. But clearly the format has to change in some way, shape, or form. And it could be, again, just better discipline one at a time on the responses. It could be, much like I've said about a lot of live coverage nowadays, especially in the age of Trump, maybe the time has come not to have live coverage, but go live to tape and then play back the tape right away so that you have time to fact check it. And maybe that's what you do is you gather all the candidates together. Because again, we didn't always have everything live instantaneously all the time. I'm still one of those old enough to remember that whether it was the Indy 500 or Wimbledon or even the Miracle on Ice U.S. hockey game in Lake Placid against the Russians, all of those things were not live. They were played back later on, hours later. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that we have the technology now and the sense of instant gratification that we feel like we have to have, instant reaction, including audience reaction to things that candidates are saying. When I think if you want audiences cheering, then go to the convention. They still televise the conventions. That's where your audience is. But if I want to learn about the candidates, I'm not going to get that when they're busy insulting each other. I want to hear what their ideas are. But, again, other people may disagree, and I certainly would be interested in your opinion as well. As far as the mugshot goes of Donald Trump and getting booked and getting the system started for what he did in Georgia and how he's being held accountable to it, again, there's a lot that has been said and will be said about the gaze or the glare that Trump is making. It's very intense in his blue suit and his oversized red tie and everything like that. It raised the point to others that others have made over the years about whether mugshots should be made public, because, again, when you're arrested, there is for the legal system a presumption of innocence, that you're innocent until proven guilty in court. The mugshot ideally is there for identification purposes if this person somehow gets on the run or something like that, or just to confirm that this is the person who's been booked into the jail. But it has led to that question about whether mugshots are useful in most cases. In this case, I think it makes sense because of not just the level of power that this person once had, but the gravity of the crime. And yeah, I might be in the minority on here, but I still hold these alleged crimes up to levels that rank right up there in crimes of violence. This is not your standard white-collar crime. I mean, the first one where Trump was arrested and arraigned, that's a New York State charge of falsifying business records to cover up hush money payments to the porn actress Stormy Daniels, to cover up an alleged affair from years earlier that she was going to talk about right before the 2016 election. All right, it's a salacious story, but the charges are about falsifying business records. Hardly a crime of passion, something you take seriously, especially in New York where all these businesses are located. You want to have faith in business records. But when we're talking about what's happening in Georgia, and it is, in my mind, it is arguable, but I'll still contend the Georgia case may rank higher than the federal election tampering case, simply because in Georgia you've got that infamous phone call where, again, Trump is saying, I just need to find votes. Remember, there were no votes to find. They weren't in the middle of counting ballots. The ballots had already been counted. So when he says, find me the votes, he is saying, flip your pencil around, erase those numbers, and write in some new ones, and people will believe you, is what he was saying in that phone call. And that's some serious stuff. I would even argue with, again, no offense to Jack Smith, but his other case might even take greater priority, and that would be the Mar-a-Lago documents case. Nuclear secrets, battle plans, defense plans, information about U.S. spies. And so far, the stories that have come out about Trump's handling of these documents has been comical to troubling, but I still wonder and worry that we're going to find out at some point that he has done something with a kernel of information that is going to, come back and bite us and bite this country badly. That's the trial that actually I'll be paying more attention to the details of it just to see what comes out of it in the end. But you have all 4 of these cases in front of Donald Trump and a run for president. So he's got to try to squeeze in, rallies and TV interviews, in and amongst all these things. And so you understand why the 8 other candidates, despite being far behind Trump in the polls, are still going through the motions of running for president, because even though Trump says he's not going to accept any plea deals, he's not going to back down, well, between preparing the cases and the ever-changing court calendars and appearances and things, it's not out of the realm of possibility yet that Donald Trump is not still in the presidential race by the time Republicans come back to Wisconsin and gather at the Fiserv Forum for the Republican National Convention in 2024. And so that's why we'll talk to Keya Vakil in just about 5 minutes here to find out, what his take is on what was said, on the issues that were talked about and were not talked about, and let the independent and Republican voters of Wisconsin weigh in on this. Now, Wisconsin isn't one of the early primary states, but if this race ends up to be, more wide open than it currently seems right now, well, then Wisconsin voters may play more of a role than we're currently thinking that they will. But right now we're watching so many things. We're watching those 4 Trump trials. We're watching a legislature that may or may not come into special session. And we're watching what apparently is going to be some more mischief by Republicans against the Wisconsin Elections Commission. And now they say that it's all about election integrity. If you believe that, you'll believe Donald Trump when in his booking yesterday he reported his weight at 215 pounds. I don't weigh 250. I weigh enough more than 215 pounds for me to look at him and say, wow, that's a lot of gall to list that as your weight, But he did. And we have to take the information that they're giving us, like why they're investigating the Elections Commission, why they're trying to switch votes in Georgia, and then we have to let the system play itself out. One other quick note, Dan Schaefer, our friend, notes that during the Republican gatherings this week, Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice Rebecca Bradley was spotted at several events there. So I eagerly await Justice Rebecca Bradley's announcement that she's going to recuse herself from all cases involving Republicans, since she is apparently now expecting the same thing of new Justice Janet Protasewicz. All right, our conversation with Keya Vakil coming up next. You're Up North.
I also saw a tweet from the Lincoln Project that had Donald Trump's mugshot and this song.
I saw Every time I do, it makes me laugh. If we were more of a video show, I totally would have played that. I almost laughed out loud this morning when I saw that.
It was very good.
It was. Oh.
beer, wine, even kombucha. Log on to wineandhop.com or stop by 1919 Monroe Street in Madison.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Don't let biased algorithms or degree screens or exclusive professional networks or stereotypes. Don't let anything keep you from discovering the half of the workforce who are stars. Workers skilled through alternative routes rather than a bachelor's degree. It's time to tear the paper ceiling and see the stars beyond it. Find out how you can make stars part of your talent strategy at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
RPG came through the belly of the aircraft. We don't talk about the female combat wounded. These are our daughters and our sisters and our mothers. Wounded Warrior Project came into my life and taught me how to stand back up and get back in the fight. The truth is, I think we all have this strength inside of us, but until you're tested, you just don't know it's there.
See how Wounded Warrior Project empowers women veterans like Beth by visiting woundedwarriorproject.org/empowerwomenvets.
Hey everybody, how we doing? I'm Charlie Barons, inviting you to join me Saturdays and/or Sundays at noon. It's a horse apiece, whatever you decide. We're doing the Cripes Cast, where we talk to people for and/or from the Midwest, and it's more fun than a six-pack of Jolly Good. Okay, the pride of Random Lake, that Jolly Good is. Anyway, it's on your Civic Media station and the Civic Media app. And do me a favor, tell your folks I says hi. Okay, real good.
We've all felt left out. And for people who move to this country, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
It is 6:33 on this Friday morning on Up North News Radio. Keya Vakil joins me now, national correspondent for Courier Newsroom, who watched the debate and has a story on our website, UpNorthNewsWI.com, with some insight. And yeah, it's been a couple days back, but again, this was 2 hours long, so you're going to learn some things from Keya that you might not have picked up on the debate. Keya, how are you?
I am well, Pat. A little tired, but hanging in there.
Exactly. Hey, I want to start with this one because it wasn't readily apparent to me, but clearly it was to others. So I'm glad they caught it. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was pretty much expecting to get pounced on because with Trump not there, he would have been the next one that you wanted to try the knockoff in the polls. But, you know, in hindsight, it seems like he, by and large, got ignored by many of the candidates up on that stage. And so, you know, what does that say, that they don't fear him anymore, or that they just have bigger fish to fry? What did you make of that?
I think it says two things. I think one, it suggests that his campaign is no longer, the cemented alternative to Donald Trump. His campaign has flailed. He is third in some polls. The aura of invincibility around him as an alternative to Trump no longer exists. So I think it says that. And I think the second thing it says is that the rest of the candidates hate Vivek Ramaswamy because he was by far the most commanding presence on that stage, the most Trump-like presence on that stage. And to, someone like me who is not a Republican-based voter, the most annoying presence on that stage. But a lot of those things that, might turn off swing voters or independent voters or you and I are exactly what the Republican base that loves Donald Trump are looking for. And that's what Vivek delivered. And so a lot of the attacks that might have gone against DeSantis were directed at Ramaswamy. You saw him get into a little bit of tiffs with Nikki Haley, with Chris Christie, with Mike Pence. And I think that's, he's kind of starting to sneak into the role DeSantis was in.
I'm going to say instead that he is a sideshow, and a sideshow that serves as a placeholder. He's a placeholder for Donald Trump until he decides he wants to be back there insulting people and trying to command the stage. And I get that I'm really minimizing whatever effectiveness he had, on the stage in Milwaukee, but I don't see how he's anything but a placeholder, unless Trump completely goes away.
No, I think that's exactly right. He was, I think if you're looking at it from the perspective of Republican primary voters, he was probably the strongest performer. But all that means is that he is the most like Trump of those 8 people. That does not mean Trump is still the OG. He's not going to pull any support from Trump. What he might do is pull 1% or 2 here from DeSantis or from Nikki Haley or from Tim Scott. Vivek Ramaswamy will not be the president in 2025. What he might be is the vice president or the commerce secretary or, the treasury secretary or, whatever sort of role he might have, because he's quite clearly, kissing up to Trump, and Trump praised him last night for basically doing exactly that. So he's auditioning for a VP slot or some other slot or to be a 2028 nominee.
So this question is pretty basic for the debate, but I'm going to ask it anyway. That, Trump was mostly, again, ignored by the candidates unless the moderators brought him up, Chris Christie being a notable exception. So not entirely unexpected, but that really does mean there was probably no change in the field in terms of Trump's dominance over everybody collectively. There may have been some movement up and down, among those 8, but there was really nothing that shaved points off of Trump by an Iowa or a New Hampshire voter, right?
No, not at all. I mean, what you saw was 6 of the 8 candidates say they would support Trump as the nominee next November, even if he's convicted of the many crimes he's been charged with. So I don't know how, if you want to unseat Trump, you say, oh, I'll vote for him anyway, even if he's a convicted criminal for trying to overturn an election, helps you do that. It just is deferential to him. The man is going to win the nomination, barring, something completely unforeseen that, like a pandemic or, I mean, God forbid, or something worse. But there's just nothing changed, like you said.
These are all people who have positioned themselves as well. If Donald Trump fell into an open well, or happen to fall into prison between now and then, they're positioning like, we're not going to take him on, but we're here just in case. And I don't think a lot of viewers really, gave the candidates any respect points for that. You had Mike Pence and Nikki Haley and Chris Christie essentially being giving the mainstream old line Republican arguments, but Chris Christie's not going to go anywhere. So in my mind, it kind of came down to Nikki Haley versus Mike Pence for your quote unquote traditional Republican voter, not your Trumper. So then my question to you is, if it's Nikki Haley and Mike Pence, is Mike Pence going to be able to build back up his level of support, or has he maxed out and Nikki Haley is the one who's going to surge?
I don't think either of them will. I think Nikki Haley might generate some new interest from donors who maybe were disappointed with Tim Scott, who was basically, a fly on the wall. But they were, in my mind, the strongest performers. But they were debating as if it's the Republican Party of 2012, not of 23. And the Republican Party of 2023, as we've already seen in a couple post-debate polls and focus group surveys, they liked Vivek Ramaswamy and apparently Ron DeSantis in second of those 8. So I think Nikki Haley had a very strong night, but she's playing to people who no longer vote Republican. And so I think they addressed the elephant in the room for about 10 minutes, but that debate outside of that basically could have happened in a world where Trump didn't exist. And that's crazy to me because he's had a stranglehold over this party for we're on eight years right now. Mm-hmm. That just feels like a complete disservice to voters and a waste of time, frankly.
So Tim Scott was, again, underwhelmed, underperformed some expectations. I will acknowledge that I have watched him speak enough that I did not have particularly high expectations, but I could see why others would. But the question here becomes, can he step it up? Now, he'd have to do it September 27th for the next debate. Is he even capable of doing that, is what I think people are asking.
That's a good question. I mean, Tim Scott is a charismatic, candidate who wants to be, he calls himself like a happy warrior. He tries to avoid going overtly negative against other Republicans. He'll say like truly outlandish things if you have a D next to your name. But, he is, he knows how to play retail politics. He knows how to engage voters. He's good at those things. He is quite clearly not great at the, media angle of it, at the, fighting, the lunatics on stage next to him angle of it. It's totally possible that he could do debate prep and sort of, really lean into some different approaches next month. But I am not sure, again, that it really matters, because until the field really shrinks to like 1 to 2 alternatives to Trump, you have 7 to, I don't even know how many people at this point, 12 other people somewhere in there, some of whom weren't even on stage on Wednesday, who are all polling between 1 and 10%. And that does no one any good if you want to beat Trump. So Tim Scott might be the alternative, but the polls are not suggesting that. And last night did not suggest that.
No. And at this point, Tim Scott is one of the 6 who have qualified for the second debate. We'll get into the qualifications needed for that in just a moment. But sticking with the Milwaukee topics, on the topic of abortion, it sure sounded to me like not just a few candidates, but an entire party that is trying to find its way through an abortion minefield of its own creation.
100%. They are now more than a year into our post-Roe world, and there is no consensus among Republicans of how to tackle this issue because it's a losing issue. We've seen in every single election where it's either been directly or indirectly on the ballot, they've gotten pummeled. In states like Ohio, they lost in Kansas and I believe in Kentucky. These are not blue states. Abortion rights are popular universally across this country, and they cannot figure out where to go with this. When Nikki Haley, who supports a nationwide abortion ban, and Doug Burnham, who passed one of the most restrictive abortion bans in the country, that basically outlaws it completely in North Dakota, when they are the 2 most reasonable people on the issue on a stage, that says a lot about where the Republican Party is on abortion right now.
Well, so we'll move off abortion, but we have to move into a topic that is, again, equally, I think, out of step with where Americans are. I'm not hearing Americans clamoring for a war with Mexico. And yet we had candidates talking about armed interventions, maybe working with the military, maybe doing it on their own, promising lots of death if you're Ron DeSantis. I guess I knew they were going to bring up the southern border. I knew they were going to say we need more. I knew there'd be ridiculousness like Tim Scott, with the IRS agents as opposed to border agents. But that was a real ratcheting of the rhetoric that we have to find ourselves saying, could the Republicans nominate somebody that would actually send American young men and women, soldiers, into Mexico? I don't even know how to phrase the question because I'm just still stupefied that it's gotten to that point.
Yeah, I mean, things are just in a very stupid place in general with regards to where people stand on Mexico on that stage. DeSantis has previously intimated he might drone strike Mexico. So now he's suggesting he'll, send troops over the border to combat the cartels and the fentanyl labs. And look, obviously, drug cartels are causing enormous damage, especially in Mexico. They are doing horrific things, and the results do trickle over the border. But invading a country that we share a border with does not strike me as a great idea if you want to actually solve the problem. If you want to score points with, some primary voters, okay, yeah, maybe that's a winning message. But I do not imagine that after 2 decades of endless wars abroad, voters are hungry for another one right at our doorstep. No. And if you actually want to address the crisis, of people seeking a better life at the border, then you got to improve life in Guatemala and in Nicaragua and in Honduras and in Mexico, where a lot of these folks are coming from, not bomb their family members. That's not going to help things.
No, there's just nothing helpful about this kind of rhetoric. All right, so we'll do it all again, September 27th at the Ronald Reagan Library in California. So I've already made the case here post-debate that the bar was set too low for the first debate. It's raised a bit for the second one, but it's not raised that much, is it?
No. It's, I think we're still going to have, frankly, too many candidates on that stage. You have to hit, I believe it's 3% in 2 national polls, or a national poll and 2 different primary state polls. You can correct me if that's wrong.
Nope, that's got it.
With 50,000 people, so 10,000 more than the candidates already have.
Mm-hmm.
And so, right now we have 6 candidates qualified, or 7 actually, 6 without Trump, and then 2 who aren't, Asa Hutchinson and Doug Burgum. They have no business being on that stage, all due respect to those 2. They were 2 of the more reasonable candidates last night, but they don't have a chance in hell. So, we're looking at a DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Chris Christie, and Mike Pence as the 6. I still would argue, that's at the upper limit. So I think, in an ideal world, unfortunately, probably you would not have Chris Christie or Mike Pence up there, because they are not giving anything that Republican voters want to hear.
It would seem that, we saw this in 2016, like when Scott Walker got out of the race. Initially, he was like, hey, we need more of you to quit the race like I did, because, we need to thin the field so somebody emerges against Trump. And then, of course, Trump emerged, and they were all like, hey, he's our buddy. He's our pal. Same thing here. If the Republican Party were to say, all right, we're going to raise the threshold to 8%, I think you'd get those people in a room real quick to say, okay, who's in, who's out, because otherwise what are we even talking about? Just give Trump the nomination now.
Yeah, I think if we're, if it's October, if it's 2 months from now and we haven't had significant consolidation, there's no point. There's no reason for both Tim Scott and Nikki Haley to be in this race. They're going for the same voters. Yes. There's no reason for Chris Christie and Mike Pence are the 2 vaguely, Chris Christie more so, but they're the 2 anti-Trump alternatives. There's not a room for both of them.
It's the NCAAs, where we talk about, the first ones, last one's in, first one's out. Keya Vakil, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're there because Luke and Brian sent you. Then I can spend more money on ads and help Mad Radio keep Wisconsin from spiraling into post-apocalyptic Republican suckage. That's Iowa's job. Buy a round of the Jade Monkey and save Wisconsin one drink at a time.
Suck down drinks so we don't have to suck.
As Goes Wisconsin with Kristen Bry.
And apparently, Maggie Dawn, Big Newton lover of the Maggie Dawn Show.
I was so offended, Jade. You know how much I love and admire you. You're like my freaking radio hero. And then to hear you bash my Newton. It's still bad. You want the cakey part cakey. You want the jammy part jammy. That is like bringing me back.
As Goes Wisconsin with host Kristen Bry. Weekdays 10 till noon on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app. Direct from the Dairy
I wonder if Maggie Dawn knew when she was saying that what she was doing.
No. Guaranteed no.
From 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. Featuring Raised in Wisco with Joe Clayfish and Danielle Fairman. The Crepes Cast with Charlie Behrens. And Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, Gilbert Brown. You can enjoy it by the slice or enjoy the whole darn thing. Sharp Cheddar Weekends is radio so fresh, it squeaks. Listen in on the Civic Media Station or on the app.
Here's your Mad Radio forecast. Overcast skies today with a slight chance for isolated rain showers. Daytime highs approach.
Yo, remember back on the bully when cats used to harmonize like, yo.
Whop that thing, Lauryn Hill, a former Fugees member, released her solo album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. It became the first hip-hop album to win the Grammy for Album of the Year. This week in 1998, that album was released. All right, I dare say this is going to be our most fully packed history lesson and music break segment. Just a lot of things happened on August 25th, not the least of which is the birth of my first grandchild, Mason. Mason is 17 today. I've been a grandpa for 17 years. That's wild, but he is just the apple of my eye. Mason, happy birthday, even though you won't hear this because you sleep till long past noon now that you're 17. All right, Brewers tickets. Get set to win 2 of them here. You know the rules. You cannot have won a prize in the month of August. In fact, while I explain the rules, let's listen to Little Eva and keep this going here. Little Eva's song, The Locomotion, hit number 1 this day in 1962. And so while we hear that in the background, again, you cannot have won a prize in the month of August. Tickets will be emailed to you, and use the tickets. These are great club seats. Here we go. Who was the first Milwaukee Brewer to hit 50 home runs in a single season? The first to call 844-967-2789 with the correct answer will get that, and I'm going to give you multiple choice. First Brewer to hit 50 home runs in a season was either Christian Yelich, Ryan Braun, Prince Fielder, or Gorman Thomas. 844-967-2789. First one with the correct answer and can use tickets. Sunday afternoon's game, Brewers-Padres. You will get those. So give Aaron a ring. All right, the number 1 hit this week in 1979 was By the Knack. While My Sharona plays in the background, we'll tell you the National Park Service was created on this day in 1916. The singer Aila and several members of her record company were killed this day in 2001 as their overloaded aircraft crashed shortly after takeoff in the Bahamas. On this day in 2017, Hurricane Harvey made landfall in Texas as a powerful Category 4 hurricane, the strongest to make landfall since 2004. Over the next several days, the storm caused catastrophic flooding throughout much of East Texas, killing more than 100 people and causing $125 billion in damage. The number 1 song this day in 1973 was by a group called The Stories. Brother Louie's lesson about interracial dating for the time was the number 1 song for 2 weeks, 50 years ago today. We are still waiting on a correct guess as to who was the first Milwaukee Brewer to hit 50 home runs in a single season. First to call at 844-967-2789. We'll get 2 tickets to Sunday's game. First Brewer to hit 50 home runs in a single season. On this day in 1970, an unknown 23-year-old singer by the name of Elton John played his first live show in the U.S. at the Troubadour in West Hollywood. The show got rave reviews and gave his career a big boost now that he'd come over from the UK to the United States. An album was released this day in 1975 by Bruce Springsteen, just one with a little ditty called Born to Run. A lot of other birthdays today. Composer Leonard Bernstein was born this day in 1918. Gene Simmons of Kiss. You've seen the commercials. Kiss is on their farewell tour, going to wrap things up. Crandon is among the final stops. Gene Simmons is 74 years old today. Born in Israel, his mom was a Nazi concentration camp survivor. Rob Halford from Judas Priest was born in England on this day in 1951, making him 72 years old today. And Aaron, I still can't get over seeing Rob Halford just fawning over Dolly Parton at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I thought that was it was adorable, basically.
Yeah, it makes sense. I feel like she's not only an amazing performing artist, but just a good person.
She was, and Rob cited that as well, and it was fun to hear them jamming up on stage. Well, I gave you an easy trivia question, so apparently a lot of people must be, they have a full dance card for Sunday, but those tickets are still sitting out there at 844-967-2789. First brewer to hit 50 home runs in a single season is going to win them. Now, catch all these other birthdays, and I didn't do the math beforehand, so I'm going to be doing a lot of this in my head. Let's see, Elvis Costello, born this day in 1954, making him 69 years old. Billy Ray Cyrus is born in Kentucky. He is 62 years old today. Jody Messina, we'll hear her a little bit later on in the program. She is 53 years old today. Actor Blair Underwood is 59 years old. Rachel Ray, the chef and TV host and author, is 55 years old today. And actress and model Blake Lively, born this day in 1987, making her 36 years old today. And one more note, Menudo. Remember the Puerto Rican boy band where it was an ever-changing lineup, so there all kinds of boys have come through there, and then they age out. On this day in 1984, they released their 16th studio album, Evolution. The album introduced their newest 12-year-old singer, a young man by the name of Ricky Martin. So his shooting to stardom started with the release of that Menudo album on this day in 1984. Aaron, if I would have given you the multiple choice on this Brewers question, I know you know the answer, but if you hadn't seen the answer, would you know it?
I think because it's multiple choice, I would have.
Yeah. So again, and I did want to make it nice and easy for you. Between these Brewers, Christian Yelich, Ryan Braun, Prince Fielder, Gorman Thomas, who was the first Milwaukee Brewer to hit 50 home runs in a season? My phone number is 844-967-2789, and the first one through with a correct answer is going to be able to win that one. Well, Aaron takes a couple of more phone calls here. We went through all of those birthdays mighty fast, but hope you got a chance to catch them, and we'll play a couple of more clips coming up. The daily newsletter that we put together at Up North News is out. It hits your email box about 5 o'clock every weekday morning. And it was, again, a case of asking you to fill in the blank. We shared your answers, and then you get a whole new bunch of new answers. So we put one out that said Wisconsin's best fish fry is blank. We put it out in a newsletter, some weeks back saying, here's what you said is Wisconsin's best fish fry. And here come all the follow-ups going, wait a minute, you forgot about this one or that one. So read a few more of your nominees for the best fish fries in Wisconsin in our newsletter. There's also a preview article from me in there. Next week, we'll be doing several back-to-school stories, including a special edition of the newsletter that looks at parts of going back to school that we all should be concerned about, like why are so many school districts getting fewer of our state tax dollars, even with a $7 billion surplus? So that and more in a special edition of our newsletter. Sign up for it at UpNorthNewsWI.com. Let's take a break. Much more in our second hour on this Friday morning.
Well, the last caller had the right answer, but is not able to go on Sunday.
Okay, well, that did.
They were like, I can't believe nobody's got this yet.
I know.
For nearly 50 years. You can trust me to tell you what your car really needs and fix it right the first time. Give me a call at 608-848-6123 to schedule an appointment today. Slattery's Automotive Service, your trusted choice for local service and repairs for all your automotive needs.
This is Chad Spate. In 1992, I moved to Madison to pursue a PhD at UW, and I started a residential remodeling.
If you're watching on The Secret Show and you can go, you can still call in.
Yes, you still can. That's why I got it up there on screen. So first one to hit 50 dingers in a single season, 844-967-2789. You can do this.
So that your home improvement project actually improves your home. And we love what we do. To learn more, go to Chad's Design Build.
I'm going to have to go back to the more challenging questions now, because if we can't get enough response with the easy one, then that's just embarrassing.
Yeah.
Make people work for it.
And always streaming on the Civic Media app.
ABC News, I'm Tom Rivers. A wildfire in Louisiana prompting mandatory evacuations. burning in Beauregard Parish, north of Lake Charles. People are being bussed to safety as fire crews fight the flames. Meantime, in the recovery effort from Maui's wildfires, there's some progress. Authorities say Maui County has just 388 people officially missing on a validated list, far less than previous numbers. County Police Chief John Pelletier pleading for concrete information.
We need your help now and each and every day, because we are only going to get through this if we're working together as one.
The current official number of dead in the wildfire remains at 150. Michigan and Ohio hard hit by severe and deadly weather, thunderstorms dropping heavy rain and flooding last night, killing at least 3 in the Grand Rapids area. And in both Michigan and Ohio, more than 660,000 customers without power. This is ABC News. Hollywood strikes have pushed back a major movie release date.
It's breathtaking. Dune Part 2 might be breathtaking, but we won't know this year. The film, from Warner Brothers, was supposed to be released November 3rd. But now WB says that because of the actors' strike, Dune Part 2 will be pushed until next year, March 15th. That's probably because if a strike is still going, they won't have their big-name stars like Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Florence Pugh, and more to promote it. But the move also takes it out of Oscars contention for this year. Jason Nathanson, ABC News, Hollywood.
Japan has announced plans to release wastewater from the damaged Fukushima nuclear plant into the Pacific Ocean. National Geographic's Leslie Bloom spoke to ABC's Start Here podcast.
What the Japanese government is saying is, look, we're running out of space on site. We don't have a lot of great options, and so the best option is to treat it, to try to strain out as many of the radioactive elements in it and release it into the Pacific Ocean.
I'm Tom Rivers, ABC News.
Madison Computer Works knows using computers is more dangerous than ever. Scammers try to scare you and steal your information or money. Emails try to phish your login and password. Online pop-ups and messages try to trick you, telling you there's something wrong with your computer, even when there's not. Madison Computer Works can protect you from these threats. Our computer care plans help stop the scammers and fix your computer problems. Call 608-231-8000 for the computer support you deserve. Madison Computer Works, computers that work for you.
From the kennel to the coop, whatever the season, Fleet Farm has everything to keep your animals happy and healthy. From training your pup to sit season, to mastering those retrieval skills season. From clipping your horse for competition season, to keeping the backyard birds well-fed season. And of course, loving your pets like family season. There's a reason people say, if Fleet Farm doesn't have it, you don't need it. Because we have it all. Fleet Farm, built for real life.
Why get one when you can get two during the buy one, get one lens offer at Ula Eyewear? Save up to 75% on your second set of lenses when you buy one now through August 31st. Have a favorite pair in need of new lenses? Buy one and re-lens your favorite. Stop by Ula Eyewear in the Hilldale Shopping Center and seize this offer before it's gone. See clearly, save clearly. At Ula Eyewear, Madison's premier eyewear shopping destination. Exclusions apply.
Does your financial strategy include your hopes and dreams? What matters most to you? For over 100 years, Thriven has helped clients like you find financial solutions for life's important goals. Explore a full range of options, from financial advice and investments to insurance, banking, and generosity programs. To have a heart-to-heart about your finances, contact Mandy Roberts, who you may recognize as Mandy Wright. Call her at 715-470-1303. 715-470-1303. Mandy Roberts proudly serves the central Wisconsin area. For more details, visit thriven.com/disclosure.
Hey, Dom, how many palindromes can you name in 30 seconds?
Race car, mom, dad, reefer, kayak, level. Did I say mom already?
You're forgetting one really important one.
Zero res.
Not only is it the coolest palindrome ever, it's also our favorite.
Right, I remember. Why is that again?
They advertise with us.
Zero res, my favorite palindrome.
And carpet cleaner.
And carpet cleaner.
Get the best carpet cleaning ever. Schedule your carpet cleaning online at ZeroResMadison.com. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
The kids are heading back to class, but when the subject is school, we have to talk about.
Hey, Ronald, thanks for your comment. The website team is working on that right now.
Thank you, Ronald.
In 1856, teaching a small class at her family's home in Watertown. It's about 50 miles west-northwest of Milwaukee. So can you guess, when did kindergarten become part of the state's public school system? The answer coming up. Schurz learned about kindergarten in Germany, where the idea was common. It wasn't in America, and her class grew so quickly, she had to move to a bigger space. Today, the building remains as a Watertown museum. So did you guess when kindergarten became part of the public school system in the state? It was 1898. But 42 years prior, the Schurz School started it all, making this a true slice of Wisconsin. I'm Terry Barr for the Civic Media Radio Network.
Radio keeps your community informed, entertained, and connected. It's what we're all about at the Civic Media Network of local radio stations.
We're having fun and moving fast to preserve hometown.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Wissota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Hey, welcome back to the second hour of Up North News Radio for this Friday, August 25th, 2023. Nice to have you along on this National Banana Split Day, National Whiskey Sour Day, National Kiss and Make Up Day. Because maybe you didn't share your banana split. All right, coming up this hour, more election interference. It appears Republicans in Madison and the nation's capital are working overtime to interfere in elections that have been and continue to be safe, secure, and accurate. Wisconsin state senators are pushing ahead with an illegal effort to fire the administrator of the Wisconsin Elections Commission. And House Republicans have announced an investigation into the Atlanta district attorney investigating Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election, same as they've done to the FBI and to New York law enforcement and others who are trying to hold Donald Trump accountable. We'll talk about the Wisconsin Elections Commission story with Henry Redman from the Wisconsin Examiner coming up in just a few minutes here. And then Mark Jacob will join us at the bottom of the hour to talk about national media coverage of Trump's arrest yesterday and the debate on Wednesday night. Dan Schumacher will join us at the end of the show, and we'll talk a little sports heading into the weekend. Along the way, normally I'd say if you have any questions or comments, you'd want to call the studio at 844-967-2789. But instead, I'm going to tell you, you could call 844-967-2789 simply because our Brewers trivia question wasn't answered before the end of the last hour. And as a result, we still got 2 tickets sitting out there, 2 great seats. All you got to do is be the first to tell us who was the first Milwaukee Brewer to hit 50 home runs in a season. Was it Christian Yelich, Ryan Braun, Prince Fielder, or Gorman Thomas? First one with the correct answer is going to get some great tickets to a Sunday afternoon game of the Brewers versus the Padres. And we'd love to have you be the winner of those tickets. If you missed our last hour, every hour of what we do at Up North News Radio and all across the Civic Media Radio Network is turned into a podcast. And so you can get that at Apple and Spotify and all the other usual places, or over at the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us. We have merchandise as well that Up North News is now hawking, I'm happy to say. Just go to upnorthnewswi.com, click store in the top banner, and you'll see various t-shirts and a tote bag, all of which are available. While you're at the Up North News website, before you click store in the top banner, click on newsletter in the top banner, and you can subscribe to our newsletter as well. So before Donald Trump's arrest came the motorcade, and we noticed this in a couple of these other arrests as well. The spectacle, not only of a twice indicted or twice impeached, now 4 times indicted ex-president flying into a place on his own massive private jet just for a one-man trip to jail to be processed. But then the motorcade, the dozen motorcycles, the multiple SUVs that have to go through. And it raises a point to me that I want to share with you in a bit about, the need for that level of spectacle and motorcade, and some would say security. And so we'll talk a bit about that. But I am happy to say I think we also have a correct answer on the trivia question as well. So let's check in with Dennis from Racine and see if he's able to join us. Dennis, you with us this morning?
Yes, I am.
Dennis, I'd love to give you tickets to Sunday's game if you can tell me the first Brewer to hit 50 home runs in a single season.
Prince Fielder.
It was absolutely Prince Fielder. Yes, thank you so much. I think the Gorman Thomas one threw people off because he's on that list in a couple of different places with 30, 40 home runs in a season maybe, but it's only been done one time. It was by Prince Fielder in 2007. So, Dennis, thank you very much for calling in. Hope you enjoy the game. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
All right, he's going to stick around and get that information over from Aaron. And so now let me get back on topic here. Trump's motorcade is simply to say this. Here's Donald Trump saying, you can't charge me with a crime. I'm running for president. And I need this massive motorcade because I'm running for president and I'm an ex-president. Ex-presidents throughout our nation's history got on their horse and went back to their farm because they're no longer president. They no longer have this powerful position. They're the same as you and me. And so for Trump to set things up in a way to get this kind of spectacle is, well, it's very Trumpian. It's something we'd be used to seeing. Now, we understand from a security standpoint, we're not back in the olden days. There's going to be a certain level of Secret Service protection. The Obamas, still know that. But what we've seen in these arraignments has been absolutely unwarranted and out of hand, and it's for show. It's, again, to make Donald Trump appear as if he's above all of this. But both an ex-president and just anybody who's running for president, anybody can say they're running for president. You can get a few campaign donations. You can qualify for that relatively low bar for the debate this weekend. But you're still just a citizen, just like any of us. And that means that if you go criming, you're going to be held accountable for those crimes. Whether there's a motorcade or not, you're going to have your day in court. You're going to get a chance to present evidence otherwise, and your mugshot's going to be out there as well. And that's what's happened with Donald Trump. After you strip away the helicopters and the SUVs and everything else, he is still a man under arrest and facing charges for the things he shouldn't have done that he did in the 2020 presidential election. Henry Redman from the Wisconsin Examiner talks to us about the Wisconsin Elections Commission coming up next. You're Up North. Hey there, Henry.
Oh.
Nice to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
let's see. Let's work on your audio a bit here. Are you just using a built-in microphone on your computer?
AirPods. I can switch to the built-in mic.
Yeah, now
I
I hear you just fine.
Okay.
Yeah, the AirPod one, sounded very, very muffled. I'm not sure why. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't here. All right, good. Yeah, I can hear you just fine here. And so you saw in my note the obviously the main story will hit, but we may touch on the other ones as well. Okay. Let me just get over to that list for a moment here. So, yeah, we've got the debate, the Elections Commission, let's see, the PFAS, the wedding barn. Any of the other stories that you kind of want to call attention to?
The big recent ones.
Okay, that's fine. So what I'm going to do now here is I'm going to put you back in the waiting room. That way we just don't hear you and see you while we're doing the weather report. But then I'll pop you back in as we get set to start our interview, okay? All right, put you back in the waiting room here. No, it's not the new song. This is the original. This is Birthday Girl Jody Messina. With the original Heads Carolina, Tails California. All right, let's get the forecast for the weekend here. Meteorologist Jennifer Wuchitsky from Weatherology joins us now to tell us about how things are much more comfortable now than they had been the past couple of days. But how's it look for the full weekend all across the state of Wisconsin? Jennifer, good morning to you.
Good morning. Yeah, well, it does look like a pretty decent weekend ahead for pretty much everyone. Definitely want to take advantage of. Cooler across the board for everyone today already as a cold front just begins to push through, and that high pressure to the south finally gets pushed away. Mid to low 80s primarily, a little cooler towards Lake Michigan, in the upper 70s around Milwaukee. Some cloud cover coming in for the day, a slight chance for some showers and storms coming in during the morning hours around Richland Center to Madison, then arriving in the afternoon around Waukesha and over around Amory and Baldwin as well, holding off until the evening hours for central Wisconsin. For the weekend, cooler across the board as that cold front fully pushes through. Highs in the mid to low 70s primarily, a little warmer for southwestern Wisconsin, partly sunny for most on Saturday, becoming sunny for west central Wisconsin down towards Richland Center, maybe a slight chance for rain around Oshkosh tomorrow. Sunday, sunny across the board, a pretty easy day, temperature-wise pretty similar, mid to low 70s, again, a little warmer around southwestern Wisconsin. Then to start off the new work week on Monday, just a sneak peek at that, highs lingering in the mid to upper 70s, sunny around Wisconsin Rapids through southern Wisconsin, with chances for showers and storms coming in Monday night. Otherwise, sunny to start off the day for the western part of the state with a blend of clouds and sunshine developing, and a chance for rain and storms coming in by the afternoon.
I didn't hear the word oppressive in there anywhere, and that makes it a great forecast. Jennifer, thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
You too.
All right, Jennifer Wuchitsky from Weatherology joining us. Now, Henry Redman's going to join us from the Wisconsin Examiner about a couple of stories that he's been working on. You'll find their work over at wisconsinexaminer.com. Henry, good morning. I think maybe the first two words that you say get cut off because of your microphone or whatnot. But so we'll see if we can tweak the audio a little bit here. But you did a couple of articles recently that we want to get into. We were just talking about Trump and of course the debate. So let's start with that article that you did first, joining some Trump supporters at a Republican watch party. And I think it's fair to say that there are still two very separated sets of Republicans out there, the ones who are sticking with Trump no matter what, and the ones who are more than ready to move on. Did you experience both kinds of Republicans this week?
Exactly the kinds of Republicans I experienced this week. I spoke with former State Senator Kathy Bernier and former Congressman Reed Ribble ahead of the debate, and they told me how much they truly believed that the Republican Party voters were ready to move on from Trump, and they wanted a debate full of discussions of the issues. And then during the debate, was at a watch party for the Republican Party of Dane County, and they told me their top issue was Joe Biden and Burisma. So there is very much still that divide.
There really is, because it's about the media bubble, as we put it. I mean, we know that the media landscape is segmented more ways than ever, and that there are some good things about it and that there are some bad things about it. But it certainly sounds like the people that you were talking to, you probably had a pretty good idea of their primary information sources.
Very cable news. Absolutely cable news.
And so if it's all about, Burisma and Biden, do you feel like in talking to them, anything is going to knock them off their mark between now and, the convention in Milwaukee?
Possible. There was a lot of sort of tentative for Vivek Ramaswamy, but generally everyone in that room was still planning on voting for Trump.
And they didn't hear anything in there that gave them any pause at all, I would assume. All right. Well, as I'm looking at I'm looking at your quotes from Kathy Bernier here, who is in the state Senate seat that I served in many years earlier, and she's one of the few, Reed Ribble being another, who were fairly quick to acknowledge that the 2020 election did not have irregularities and that Trump lost in them. Kathy Bernier is working with a new group now called Keep Our Republic. it's interesting that she is still staying rather public and outspoken. So did you talk to her about that, her willingness to still be, out there and, despite the blowback that she might get?
Yeah, I mean, she just believes strongly that, people like her have to stand up for the state's election systems. She was a county clerk before getting elected to the Senate, and so she knows a lot about the election systems and knows that by and large Wisconsin's election systems are run by people's neighbors. So that has led her to join and keep our republic, trying to talk face to face with people who maybe still have doubts about the election. The thing about that strategy is that it is absolutely much slower than the conspiracy theories about the election and how they spread.
Yeah. There were a couple of candidates there, former Vice President Mike Pence and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who probably got more boos than anybody else other than Vivek Ramaswamy when he started getting particularly sassy. In your article's reporting, do you feel like there's any path forward for Christie or Pence?
I do not think the Republican base is going to vote for Christie or Pence in a primary election. They were, before the debate even started, they were the two candidates that people said they disliked the most.
And that was clearly there in the crowd reaction, too. So let's switch over to things a little bit closer to home among the many stories that you cover for the Wisconsin Examiner. And you can find his work at wisconsinexaminer.com. And that is this whole notion of whether the administrator of the Wisconsin Elections Commission, her term has expired. We know that. But the whole notion of is she up for renomination for a new term or not? And we've had a change in the rules thanks to a squatter from the Natural Resources Board from some time back. So as you've covered the Republicans who are trying to forward a nomination and a state attorney general who says there is no nomination, again, this sounds like a pretty classic standoff. Can you describe where both sides are coming from on this?
Yeah, so the Republicans in the Senate passed a resolution saying they believe Megan Wolf's renomination has been sent to them. The Elections Commission itself did not reach the 4 votes required to send the nomination. And Attorney General Call says that because of that, there is no nomination and there's nothing in the Senate. And that means both under state statute and that Supreme Court decision you mentioned, Wolf can stay in her seat pretty much indefinitely.
Yeah, until the state Senate confirms somebody new. But there is nobody new before them because the Elections Commission, again, did not forward a nomination. And that's where it comes down to this whole notion of how you treat an abstention. Because, again, there's 6 members on the commission, 3 Republican, 3 Democrat. The 3 Democrats abstained from the matter of renominating Megan Wolf. The 3 Republicans voted for it to send it to the full Senate. But that's not 4 votes. But the Republican senators are acting as if it was a 3-0 vote, that it was a unanimous vote for Megan Wolf. I don't believe Attorney General Josh Call agrees with them.
Right. The statute that talks about how the Elections Commission can appoint an administrator says it requires a majority of the members, which would be 4.
So what is the Senate going to do about this anyway next week?
They're likely still going to have a hearing and talk about how much they don't like Megan Wolf, but she is not going to be there.
So the chair of the Senate Committee on Elections is Senator Dan Knodel of Germantown. Has he made any comment, or is he basically commenting through the fact that this meeting has been agended and is going to be held?
Yeah, exactly that the meeting has been agended and going to be held.
All right, so they'll do that, and this will lead to, I mean, where does it lead to Does it lead to a court fight that, much like Fred Prenn, again takes us to the Wisconsin Supreme Court? And how would that play out?
Yeah, so pretty much everyone agrees that this is going to end up in court. If it ends up at the Supreme Court, it is going to be interesting because obviously the court's majority is different now than it was when the Fred Prenn decision was decided. So the liberal majority on the court is going to have the opportunity to overturn the Prenn precedent, but basically kick Megan Wolf out of her seat, or allow Megan Wolf to keep running the state's elections, but have to affirm the Prenn decision, which was very unpopular among Wisconsin liberals.
So really, it puts both Democrats and Republicans in a bit of a bind. Let's start with the Republicans. When you talk to them, and I've been on either side of that microphone, and so some reporters ask very, standard questions, and other reporters are, a little bit more, conversational, sassy, whatever you want to call it. So when people are talking to the Republican leadership in the legislature, are they referencing Fred Prenn and asking questions? Are you asking questions like that essentially say to them, come on, you know what you did with Fred Prenn. You're trying to have it both ways. Are they being pressed at all on the, in my mind, the utter shamelessness of how they were for one set of rules with Fred Prenn, but now they're for another set of rules for Megan Wolf?
I don't think they're really being pressed on it that much, but they also, don't make a ton of unscripted appearances in front of the state media.
They don't wander into the Capitol press room like they used to in the olden days. No, I suppose not. And so, yeah, it's really incumbent upon people back in their hometowns, their constituents and their local reporters, when they see them, to ask them, about why they were for it one way and now the other. But you really did put your finger on how, Democrats are in a somewhat similar, bind in that they didn't like what the conservative-dominated Supreme Court did in allowing Fred Prenn to stay on the Natural Resources Board. But if they want to go back to the standard that existed previously, then it does mean that it'll be easier to fire Megan Wolf, and that the legislature's Joint Committee on Legislative Organization, because there's never an easy name for these committees, might appoint an interim administrator for the Elections Commission. So, there's really no easy path for anybody in here, is there?
No, definitely not.
You can read more about this from Henry Redman, along with many other of the great stories that he and the rest of his team work on over at WisconsinExaminer.com, which is brought to you by States Newsroom, which has outlets all throughout the country. Henry Redman, great to talk to you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And when we come back, Mark Jacob is standing by, and he'll tell us about his take on national coverage of the big debate and also the Trump arrest in Atlanta. We'll be back. You're Up North. All right. There we go. Henry, that was great. Thank you so much. Sorry about the little audio hiccups in the beginning there.
Oh, no worries. My AirPods can be quite finicky. So,
yeah, I did that. That's why I ended up with the headphones finally. It was because I love my AirPods for phone calls. They just, for radio interviews, they were a little wonky at times. But anyway, well, I hope we can do this again soon. Thank you again.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good one.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Hey there, Mark.
Hi, Pat. How you doing?
I'm pretty good, thanks. I'm a little sleep deprived, but somebody had to watch the circus.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you watch the coverage last night?
I did not. Good
for you.
I was the night before I had to stay up late and do the whole debate and everything. So this one I just monitored from a local watering hole on my phone and shared the mugshot with everybody in the bar as soon as it came through.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of more pageantry than substance.
Yes.
This is going to, now we're into process. So, I think some people will tune out of process.
Yep. How are you social media wise? Are you still pretty much exclusively Twitter? Are you doing much of anything on Threads or what's the other one, Blue Sky or anything like that yet?
Yeah, I've tried to diversify because Elon Musk is such an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on Threads, I'm on Post, and I'm on Blue Sky.
Okay. Yeah, I just started Blue Sky this week, and again, if we could get all of them to either get good phone apps or good desktops, I'd be a happy camper.
Wouldn't that be nice? Because Blue Sky, I got to sign in every day. It just seems like.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried Mastodon, but I found it to be very unresponsive.
It's very clunky. Yes.
It seemed to not update. It didn't update. Like when you
Right.
posted something and you wanted to go back and look at it, you couldn't find it.
Yes.
I mean, it was. That's the frustrating thing is that Twitter is still the most rapid. It's like you get things right away. And that's
even though it's not working the same. It's like they messed around with the engine. It's like, okay, you're still the fastest one, but God, you don't operate anything like the way you used to.
Right, and you let some Nazis in the car too. So it's kind of it's all a mess right now. But I am trying to diversify because I mean I see it with my followers. I mean, I get every time Elon Musk does something stupid, I lose a couple hundred followers.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's not I'm not worried about my followers as much as it just to me I find that a sign that people are just getting sick of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are. Let's see. Got about one more minute here. All right, 10 seconds. Got to go back to this day in history. We had a very packed segment today that we couldn't even get to everything, but it was on this day in 1976 that Boston released their self-titled debut album. It was mostly recorded in Tom Scholz's basement studio, and yet went on to become one of the best-selling debut albums of all time. Again, released this day in 1976. Mark Jacob joins us now, former Chicago Tribune Metro editor, author, helps me assess the media coverage of happenings throughout the week here. And of course, there were a couple of big ones that were worth covering. Mark, good morning. How are you?
Doing great.
We'll probably spend the bulk of our time on the debate and then media, general coverage overall. But since we're right on the heels of last night's Donald Trump arrest, I'll start where I kind of left off earlier this hour in talking about just the spectacle, the news helicopters, the dozen motorcycles, the line of SUVs, and none of it seemed necessary, but unless, of course, you're interested in making something, the phrase made for TV, then that's what this simple arrest was a made for TV moment.
Yeah, I would like to know who made the decision to have such a gigantic, motorcade.
Mm-hmm.
I assume they were in law enforcement, but you have to wonder how much guidance they had from Trump, because it was just totally unnecessary. And Trump, because he's an authoritarian, loves the kind of the whole regal, vibe of the whole thing. And so yes, it was kind of a pageantry, and of course they're already fundraising off of it. It's that they got mugshot T-shirts and stuff like that. I mean, Pat, it's all a scam. It's all a scam. The thing about this is we look at this as politics, but it's really, if you look at it from the accurate Donald Trump perspective, it's just a mob scam. It's just a mob operation. It's the way he gets money and power, and the way he controls things. And it's not about getting people's votes. It's about getting people's money, and he's pretty good at that.
Oh, yes, he is. I like that you noted last night, you put up a clip that in a nod to criminal tradition, Donald Trump says he's being treated unfairly. In the clip you put up, I don't know what paper this was from, but it's prison sentence is unfair. Al Capone whines in his cell. Gangster reported furious when he hears U.S. Supreme Court refuses to intervene. So, I mean, tale as old as time.
Yeah, exactly. I love to go back and look at old newspaper clips, and I knew if I threw in Al Capone and unfair, I would get that. And that's the thing that also drives me crazy about the whole Trump thing, and the fact that he's actually very successful at getting ignorant people to sympathize with him, to feel bad for him. The poor guy, when you assess the last 7 years or so, and what's happened, and all the victims of Trump, all the fact that he mismanaged COVID so badly, and hundreds of thousands of people are dead probably because he mismanaged COVID so badly and lied about it. And look at all the other stuff. Look at the thing that bothers me most, everyone's got their own thing that really bothers them. And my personal thing that bothers me about this whole Trump attempt to steal election stuff is the stuff he did to those two poor women in Atlanta. They volunteered to work an election, to be part of democracy. They take their time out, they do it. And instead they get lied about, they get harassed, they get, they pass a breath mint or a mint to each other on a video. And that's described as them, they're passing a thumb drive. They're stealing the election. And these poor women's, their lives have been tossed and turned and disrupted by Donald Trump. And yet he's going to act like he's the victim. He's made them the victim. He's made all of us the victims, really. But the idea, here he is with this giant motorcade and his own airplane with his name on the side, and we're supposed to feel sorry for him? I don't think so.
Well, that's the whole notion of this reality TV world that we live in now, that you go for the visuals, the jet, the motorcade, and that if what we used to call collateral damage is now seen as, oh, well, those two women who were harassed and their lives were made miserable, they should be thankful that they're getting 15 minutes of fame up on TV. But they like a lot of private citizens, don't ask to be dragged into somebody else's reality TV spectacle.
No, really. And to me, that was the most compelling testimony in the J6, in the J6 committee stuff is that woman saying, that the president of the United States how does it feel when the president of the United States comes after you like that? Just a private citizen who nobody knows. And people ought to be able to put themselves in her place and understand that he did not care who the victims were, and he didn't care about the damage. Look at it. I mean, it is really true. Everything that Trump touches dies. I mean, look at all the people who have just, Michael Cohen, Rudy Giuliani. Look at all these people who as soon as they decided to align with that guy, they're just laying dead on the side of the road as he drives past in his motorcade.
And the thing is, they still do. They still agree to represent him or work with him, and that's how you ended up with 18 co-defendants. More mugshots than you can fit on a screen here. So because of that, and for a host of other reasons, Trump did not show up in Milwaukee for the first debate. That debate was on the Fox Political News channel, and a lot of people thought that channel was, maybe on its last legs because of the Dominion case and their reckless behavior there. But you were among many others who called out the Washington Post for a headline that said, after Dominion case, GOP debate gives Fox News a chance to burnish its image. Why are we doing image stories about networks that lied about the election?
Right. Oh, that was a horrendous story in the Washington Post. And I have to wonder whether the mainstream media is ever going to get it, is ever going to understand the gravity of the situation now and stop playing small ball all the time. And in that case, they were saying, well, this was, the news division is running this debate, and that's different from the opinion people. Well, Brett Baer, who was one of the co-hosts, they found a email he sent in which he urged Fox to withdraw its correct call of Arizona for Biden in 2020. He said, well, we're getting too much blowback on this. We need to withdraw this call and put it back in Trump's tally. And in fact, it never was in Trump's tally. So he's asking them to withdraw a correct statement and make an incorrect statement in order to please their audience. And that's news. And yet, and then the article, it was ridiculous. It quoted two people as talking about well, this is the dream team, these two co-hosts and all that stuff. So it's Fox News. It's going to be like Fox News, and it's not news. It's anti-journalism. It's terrible. And Pat, that $750,000, of $1 billion, sorry, that they're going to end up paying in this lawsuit. That's just the cost of doing business for them. I mean, they have decided that that's an expense that they're willing to make, and they're not changing their way. They probably are being much more careful about not communicating in electronic form that creates a record. But other than that, I don't think they learned anything.
No, it doesn't appear to be. Brett Baer and Martha McCallum they lived down to my expectations. Some of the premises of their questions, like the setup about, America's cities in decline. And there was plenty of editorializing in the questions as well that don't help get to the heart of what is every candidate's position on a certain issue. But it's not just channels like Fox. It's mainstream outlets that still have so much to learn. There was more than a little blowback that the New York Times provided some editorial space to Ann Coulter, who does not really have a stellar record with actual journalism.
Right. After the Oklahoma City bombing with Timothy McVeigh, Ann Coulter said that she only regretted that Timothy McVeigh hadn't gone to the New York Times building instead. And then when she got blowback by that, she says, well, what I really meant is that after the building was emptied of everyone except the reporters and editors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so that's the New York Times that she's talking about, the New York Times, a couple of decades ago. And here we are. The New York Times is considering her a political pundit and letting her opinion appear in their, they're inviting her to appear in their op-ed section. I mean, this is like, talk about, what really bothers me about this is the news media. If the news media is not going to worry about the country and the future of the country, they should at least worry about the future of the news media. Yet they keep on promoting these people on their option. I mean, if Ann Coulter makes news, if she gets arrested or something, you got to report on that. I get it. But inviting her to appear in your opinion section, that's a choice you don't have to make. Yet they're going to make it. And I just wonder whether the mainstream news media is going to be doing that kind of enabling of fascism until they all get frog marched out of their newsrooms at gunpoint. I mean, when are they going to figure it out?
And did I see correctly or not? I'm sorry to speculate because I didn't flesh it out entirely, but that Ann Coulter also made some kind of a Hindu quip about Nikki Haley and Vivek Ramaswamy during the debate as well.
It said, well, she said something about how, well, they must be having some Hindu thing, but that's not for the rest of us to figure out, or something like that. And the thing is, I mean, not only is that racist and anti, people's religion, but it's not even right. I mean, I believe that Nikki Haley's background is Sikh, not Hindu. And of course, that's way too sophisticated.
Oh, we're not going to let the facts get in the way. Yeah,
like Ann Coulter. Yeah, it's astounding. Yet the New York Times willingly invited her to appear in their pages in a positive platform. Now, why is that? And that's not like, well, we're just showing both sides. No. If Joseph Goebbels wants to say something to your news organization, you don't have to publish it. I mean, it's absurd for news media to think that they got to publish everything they hear. They don't, and they don't have to invite racists and crazy people to appear in their pages.
We are once again getting back to what has become a classic debate or misunderstanding of publisher versus platform. And it's because these platforms like Twitter, Facebook, they don't want to take any editorial responsibility. So they say, well, we're not a publisher. A publisher has a gatekeeper. And that's the point you're trying to make, is the New York Times is not a platform. They're a publisher. So they can make decisions through a gatekeeper who to let in and who to say, nope, we don't want you on our pages. They have to, but now they feel the pressure to be a platform because, again, there's revenue at stake.
Right. Well, and that makes them look fair. They're terrified that the right wing is going to call them unfair, which if they're telling the truth, the right wing is going to call them unfair. I mean, come on. I mean, it's like, when I was at the, Chicago Tribune, and I was working on their foreign desk, and we would write stories about the Middle East, and we would get complaints from the pro-Palestinian people. We'd get complaints from the pro-Israel people, and we'd listen to what they said. But I was not going to let that affect my coverage much, because those folks didn't want us to be fair. They wanted us to support their position, and I understand that. That's what advocacy is. But that doesn't mean we got to bend to every complaint. You have to understand that you got to be fair. You got to do what you think is right. You can't just be scared of right-wing complaints, because they're working the refs. That's what they're doing, Pat. Yep. And it works.
Yep. One quick final question, and that is the momentum that Vivek Ramaswamy got, even though he was lying and being completely obnoxious, but it was working for him. Do you feel like national media is going to continue to be complicit in this despite his inaccuracies, shortcomings, and hatefulness? Or do you have any sense that they might check themselves before they go too far, making him their newest darling?
No, they're gonna call him the fresh new face. They're gonna, well, he's really a dynamic. They're not gonna point out the fact that he doesn't want 24-year-olds to vote, and that he himself, hardly ever has voted in his entire life. I mean, the guy's a con man. He's just he's just a Trump style con man. But Pat, they don't do that. I would like to say, yeah, sure, the news media is going to really expose how this guy's bad, but they don't.
No,
there's an article, I called out an article, in the last week about him that did the old fresh new face thing, and didn't point out all the crazy. He wants to he wants to close a bunch of agencies. He wants to.
Oh no, we'll get all of this, and I'm sure we'll get it in the second debate as well. He's a placeholder until Trump comes back. Mark Jacob, thanks so much. Have a great weekend.
Talk to you later.
All right. We'll come back. Dan Schumacher will be along, and then we'll get this weekend started next. You're up north. Hello, hello.
What's up, man? Is it raining down there?
No. Nope. Raining up there.
Yeah, it is raining right now. It's rained almost every day, like the last 3 or 4 days, and then by the end of the day, it clears up beautifully. So,
just pulling up a radar here.
Yeah, it's just light showers right now. Even though I see pieces of blue sky across the bay. But,
oh yeah, okay. I see. I guess there is some spotty stuff around us here. Hopefully just this one wave, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
All righty.
Is it too dark? There we go.
There you go. Perfect.
See Art 1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here I was going to tell him about how Sherry won shake of the day at the Edge the night before, and we were happy. We were happy with $58. Guess he did a little bit better. All right, here we go.
All righty.
Friday, we try to play a version of Stump the Band, Stump the Deadhead, and see if Dan Schumacher can guess a Grateful Dead song in just a few notes.
God. It's at the tip of my tongue, and I can't remember, if you can believe that.
Oh, my gosh. Aaron, is this a first?
I think it is.
Deep Ellum Blues. Deep Ellum Blues.
Never mind. He got it.
Oh, jeepers. Okay. just had to give him enough. He would get there. Dan Schumacher, Executive Director of Athletics for Northland College up in, is it rainy Ashland today?
It is. It's a very, very light rain, very cool. I think it's like 63 degrees.
Yeah, but it was all week while the rest of us,
Yes.
were wishing for dry underwear again. You had, just cool, comfortable, breezy.
It's crazy. It was crazy because my better half has come up and visited, and she said once she got to Hayward, basically, she watched the thermometer keep going down, down, up 63 until you got here. It went from 100, 96 or whatever it was to 67 in Ashland. But it's because of that Mother Nature maker in front of me looking at the bay on Lake Superior. So it's its own money. It's its own weather maker.
Cooler by the lake. It really is. When we talk about, where does up north start? It's people ought to think of Highway 8 essentially as like our Arctic Circle. Once you're north of there, you truly can be on the tundra. Not that they don't get hot days, but that lake effect is awfully nice.
There's been some hot days up there. I will tell you that, Pat. I mean, it's been in the mid 80s in a couple of days that I've been there, and I've actually asked locals, is this common? And they're like, yeah, this is a usual summer.
Mm-hmm.
So
your Cubs are still 3 games behind the Brewers here in the National League Central, even though they haven't had a bad week. They've won 2 games in a row. They're 6-4 over their last 10, but the Brewers are 7-3 in their last 10 because they've got a 5-game winning streak going after topping the Twins. So we continue to have some divisional drama.
Yeah. So those were some tough. They pulled out some tough wins, the Brewers, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
They were out of the last 5, 3 were one-run games.
Their margin in one-run games, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the best, if not the best, in the major leagues this year, which I would not have guessed because there was a point, maybe a third of the way into the season, where you thought, why do we keep losing these close games? Why do the bats go silent? But if you scratch out enough of them, that's going to work for you.
Right.
So we got.
What's coming up though, Pat?
What's coming up?
We're just a week away from the F word. Football.
Oh yeah. We got.
And the opening game is my Chicago Bears hosting the Green Bay Packers and Mr. Love.
Yes, I see that Mr. Clifford has been formally announced as Jordan Love's backup, and so we know, which was not a big surprise. But again, I think they both have looked good in the preseason. You're liking your guy.
I am. I'm liking it a lot.
Is that Jason Fields still, or
yes, yes, it is.
Okay.
He can throw, he can pass. I mean, he can throw, he can run. It's but we'll see. It all depends. I can't count out the Packers. They've been good for 25 years because they've had 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. So.
Well, and who else has been good for, by and large for all these years has been the Wisconsin Badgers, and their season is coming up. I think not this coming weekend, but I think the next weekend we get going with college football there too. So I'm sure now as you work on a program there for Northland College, what do people watch up there in terms of college football? Is like Minnesota Duluth? Are they like the big thing?
You know what? I've not heard that. I have not heard the Duluth name. I mean, they talk about the Badgers quite a bit.
Sure.
And of course, Packers are king up here. There's Packers. I don't know of any, even though there's a lot of Minnesota people that are in Ashland because they've got homes here and touristy, that kind of thing. But no, not much on the college side. Mostly, high school football is the talk on town in Ashland High School. So not much on the college game.
No, that's okay. Then there's plenty of high school that's going on as well. We heard Chad. I was telling Chad Holmes the other day, who does play-by-play for Bull Falls Radio in Wausau, what a nice setup it is that you can use the Civic Media app and you can listen to these high school football games.
Sure.
It's as important as ever to have local media covering these things, and I'm sure high school football is no slouch up there as well.
That's right. It's high school football is still something of a universal piece. It doesn't matter if you were a player or a fan. You always remember Friday Night Lights in high school. And it's a special time in your life, being 16, 17 years old on Friday nights. If you're playing or you're in the stands or you're the cheer squad or the band, you can't get those years back. And it's special times.
Yeah, no doubt there. I should have mentioned when we were talking baseball a minute ago, the Brewers will be playing the San Diego Padres this weekend at American Family Field. 7:10 tonight, 6:10 Saturday, 1:10 on Sunday afternoon. So again, every game counts that much more as we move into things here.
I'll tell you what about the other day when it's 100 degrees and they kept the roof open?
Well, they shut it halfway, which I thought was smart, trying to at least try to have the best of both worlds, because I don't know the extent. Did they think that the air conditioning system wouldn't work if it was fully closed? I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
All I know is you had that one sliver that was fully lit, and that was the left field corner where Christian Yelich and the Twins left fielder had to stand. And that whole game, and I have sat down there, if you sit right behind the left field foul pole and you're looking right down past third base, the sun is right there. The sun's right in your eyes, and they got those metal bleachers there that just fry you like bacon. That all the rest of the place, good place to be on a super sunny day. But yeah, I felt for anybody that was in there.
That's
well, unless they weren't smart enough to get up and walk around.
Yeah, right.
There's places you can do that. We've got in the Up North News daily newsletter another article about where are the best fish fries in Wisconsin. You have relocated to the Ashland area. You have been no stranger to checking out some of the local cuisine and bartender skills and things like that. Are you finding favorites like fish fries up there?
I have. I've not stayed as many Friday nights. I've always headed back to Chippewa most of the time. But tonight's one of those nights I'm going to be here because we have freshman move-in day tomorrow and Sunday. So the athletic teams and coaches and myself will help people move into their dorms and be a good campus partner on that. But
wait, you're going to help people move into their dorms?
Well, I'm going to supervise.
Okay,
I
was going to say,
18 to 22-year-olds and be present.
I didn't get any help like that when I was lugging my stuff at Towers Hall at UW Eau Claire back in the day. That would have been nice to have a big, strong fellow like you doing that. I would have been.
There's a couple of good places that I've had fish at, especially, as much as you get cod or walleye at some places, big around here, it's freshly caught whitefish.
Oh, sure. Yep.
And they serve that every day up here. And it's delicious. And
I'm going to do it. I'm going to get up there one of these Fridays. You keep scouting them out. When you find the best one, I'll be there.
Yep. I've got two in mind.
All right. Sounds great. Have a fun weekend. Thanks for being here.
See you down the road, Pat.
All right. Thank you. All right. That's it for today. Coming up on Monday, we'll have Motherhood Monday, where we talk about some of the radical school boards that are out there and how it's forcing some good people out. So again, stay up to date with our newsletter at UpNorthNewsWI.com, or you can follow me on social media, Pat Kreitlow Up North on Facebook, Pat Kreitlow everywhere else. Have a wonderful weekend. Keep the dial here on your favorite Civic Media radio network station. See you Monday.
All right. Shoot me a message if you need anything.